Okay, we are finally here. It's 30 minutes, I think, 35 minutes after the appointed start time. It is
and whose fault? And whose fault is that?
That would be Rollo's fault.
Ah,
actually. So, what is this? Background. Okay, I'll answer that later. Tempest, if you're watching, I'll answer your question a little later. So, welcome to the MG Rogue Friday broadcast, the late evening edition. This was supposed to be sort of a session 0, getting these two new players to the D&D group, Robert Kusland and Amos, who will be playing an elf wizard. I'm getting a little tired and loopy right now. His name is Rothfuss. Rothus. Okay. Apparently I need new glasses as well. Hey, Bit, what's up? Bacon, or I should say the goddamn bacon. Good to see you guys. So, we're waiting on Rollo. Something may have come up. We haven't heard from him yet, so
maybe
we'll hang around for.
Got mixed up.
It could be. It could be a time zone issue. Anyway. Yes, we got Rollo, at least for the beginning here. So.
Yeah, hopefully he'll get on here. I mean, he's way behind in terms of time zones, so he's got plenty of time still in the evening.
Mm-hmm. It's 11 o'clock. It's 11:35 here on the East Coast. So.
Right, and you did. I saw it. You specified East Coast Standard. Yeah, so I mean,
always do. Yeah.
Oh man. If he thought Pacific time,
yeah, well, that's not happening. He should know better. He should know better.
I would say Mountain Time is bad enough, but if he's going for Pacific Time, yeah,
exactly. All right, so we can hang for a little bit, and we were just talking about our characters. So Amos, if you want to continue,
So I mean, I know we're using 5th edition characters, so Rothus is an evocation wizard. With the, I have a. It's interesting. Rothus as a character. I mean, this goes beyond the campaign. It's not going to affect the campaign itself, but Rothus is a character that I use personally ever since becoming a DM. I used Rothus as a character. I have in my own campaign world that I created for my first campaign. I kind of have this sort of like a multiverse, parallel dimension. So Rothus is this character that exists in many different versions. That's just my justification for, I'm going to play as this kind of Rothus here, that kind of Rothus there. So in the last campaign, they fought evil Rothus.
Nice.
Who was corrupted and turned into a dark elf. Anyways.
It's like Jet Li's The One.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And partway through the campaign, they encountered a good Rothus who kind of gave them some guidance. He was basically traveling through the multiverse and also saying okay, there's a me here. I think here's the things you should know about him. Here's the things you shouldn't do or should do to him. That's all I can tell you because I can't interfere or whatever. And then he leaves. But anyways, this is just from Rothus in this world, I guess, is an evocation wizard who has the background of an acolyte, so that gives him more languages. He speaks Common, Dwarvish, Elvish, Orc, and Undercommon. And I don't know yet what Rollo has as for magic items or anything that he wants to hand out.
He'll probably give you one or two. Yeah.
Yeah, but so far, it's just he carries a quarterstaff and he wears common clothes. Let's see. And he's so under 5th edition, he's actually a wood elf, which gives him more movement. And then he also gets, let's see. Yeah, some certain abilities that he gets as a wood elf. Not sure what else is really to go into.
So he's kind of your standard NPC when you're running games.
Yeah. It kind of just started because I played one campaign where I created him completely from scratch,
Mhm.
and then I was like, and then I played with a certain group of people, and then the dungeon master for that game decided kind of had some stuff go on, and he couldn't continue for a while,
Mhm.
so he suspended the game, but the group still wanted to play. So I just, still being pretty new, I thought, well, I'm going to take on being a dungeon master,
Mhm.
and then kind of made some connections by creating NPCs and stuff. Mainly, we're focused on the world they were in, but they encountered little things like they're in a whole new world, and then partway through, like one of the NPCs says to them, like, they're like, "Oh, you're encountering this wizard, and he's doing all this stuff. Like, what's going on?" And then one of the king and one of his advisors are talking to each other, and they overhear them say the word Rothus, and all the players were like, "What?" Yeah.
Right.
And then it established further on that there was like, I kind of created like an explanation, like, there's all these different versions of different characters. So it was a way of kind of breaking the fourth wall.
Right.
Because his character was talking to them
Mhm.
by other names that they were in this other campaign that got suspended. So he was kind of messing with them too, and they were thinking it was really funny. But
So I take it he's a standard high elf magic user type.
yeah, but in this case, he's a wood elf. Wood elves,
Well, okay.
in 5th edition, I guess, are not quite as. I think the big thing is really. So he gets more of a wisdom increase instead of the intelligence increase, and then
Okay.
What's the other one here? It's the thing I haven't played in a while. This is one thing that I've kind of had some confusion on, but elves don't sleep.
Yeah.
So
they go in the twilight sleep.
They have like a trance.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go into trance. So I've always wondered if that could be like a mechanic where they don't necessarily so if like a party is doing a long rest, that they would only be resting half of that time, because 5th edition says they go into trance for 4 hours.
Shit.
What's that? Oh.
No, but keep going. I'm talking to myself. I'm trying to do something here on the back end.
But yeah, so not sure what else. So far, I mean, he's an evocation wizard, so there's a lot of evocation spells, but I created his spell book to have a handful of other more not defensive spells, but a lot of like deceptive certain spells, like you can change his appearance,
right,
create illusions. I think I actually have an app that can manage the spell book, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
What did I give him here?
Yeah, in the German RPG, the Dark Eye, Das Schwarze Auge, there actually is, particular to a region, a group of wizards that are basically battle mages. I mean, they carry swords and everything else. They ride with knights. They can even, I think, have like knightly titles and rank. And they carry swords, they wield swords, and their spells are very much offensive based. And I think there might be even one other magic school that allows something similar.
I think 5th edition has something called War Wizards.
Yeah, I think that's what they call it in this, which I think is based on one of the old kits from
Battle
2nd
Mage.
edition. Yeah.
Yep. Or so what's called a sword mage.
Yeah.
But Rothus, of course, knows Fireball.
Awesome.
That's all. That's really all you need.
Yeah. You find yourself in a room surrounded by barrels full of black powder, and you're surrounded by orcs. What do? Cast Fireball.
your feet has this weird black fluid that's sticking to you. Oh, I'm casting fireball. Like,
There you
the
go.
whole
Yeah.
room's
Yeah.
on fire.
So Bacon wants to know how. I'm assuming he means how long does it usually take to learn enough to get into D&D? Not very.
Literally no
you're-
time, actually.
Yeah, you're fairly intelligent with an above average IQ. You'll do fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, pick up the PDF versions of the 5th edition Player's Handbook and the 1st edition, what's called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That PDF of that Player's Handbook, and look into both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Read both from cover to cover.
Most people you're going to find are going to be playing 5th edition, but my gripe with it is, from what I've learned, is like it tends to, like, it's not meant to, I don't think, but it tends to lead in sort of a free-for-all. Kind of everything goes in the needs intelligence of 13. But yeah, it kind of turns into this free-for-all because there's no limitations. Like any class, any subclass, any race, any everything can all kind of just crisscross however you want.
Mm-hmm.
Alignment is not even really a thing anymore in most games. So it's like the running gag that I see in some groups is someone would say, my character is chaotic stupid.
Yeah.
Or you get a lot of interesting characters that kind of just, where you get the, was the murder hobo really a thing back in, like, was that 1st, 2nd edition, or is that kind of a new thing?
That's a new gay thing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's just
See,
dumbest fucking shit.
Yeah, it's
people
I'm gonna
that
kill everyone.
people that use that trendy phrase should just not play the game.
See, in my experience, obviously I didn't hear the term until, post-internet days. But my original group back in the late 70s through the early to mid 80s, it was all about what we were doing, especially with the characters that actually managed to make it past 5th level, because a bunch of us had characters that didn't, because you died, because like in real life crap happens, and it's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that the DM was purposefully trying to be cruel. It's just, things happen and things didn't go your way. And also we were all novice at one point in time. So as we learned to play, we played smarter while still playing our characters. So even if a character wasn't particularly bright, they weren't like the upper class Twit of the Year award from Monty Python stupid either, and they didn't try to seduce the dragon or whatever. They also, they avoided the dragon, or at least the smarter members of the group said, no, we can't handle a dragon. So, Boffer didn't go with us to fight a dragon. Boffer went with us to the bar where we got some more hirelings and where we went to this other place instead. The second main group of people I gamed with were people I ended up DMing with for the most part. And they were a bunch of high school kids, and we're talking about mid-90s. They thought D&D, and they had only played 2nd edition D&D. They thought D&D was you walk into a room, you meet 5 orcs, you kill the 5 orcs, you loot their bodies, take all the gold, and then walk into the next room where you kill 10 goblins and you take all their gold. That's what they thought D&D was.
It could have been worse. It could have been the DM that went through the monster manual from cover to cover and had you fight each monster one after the other.
In alphabetical order.
Alphabetical fucking order. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. What really sucked is when he broke out the Fiend Folio and started going from that weird, crazy stuff, which I actually love, but man, there's some weird things in there. But no, I mean, that was as close to murder hobos as and that's just because they were a bunch of high school kids playing together. in second edition.
It
which
wasn't.
is not
Yeah,
as,
it wasn't very nuanced.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, and the next thing you know, I have them, arguing for 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes that, well, Robert said the door didn't appear trapped. He didn't say it wasn't trapped. So did you really succeed at your check traps, or did you fail and we just don't know it? And I mean, so I got them to overthinking it at a certain point, in which case I had to kind of slap them spiritually upside the head, and it's like, no, it's open the bloody door and let's keep gaming. but no, I took what I had learned from playing through first edition and first edition AD&D, and then the two different, at least two, if not three different versions, depending on how you look at things, with the Holmes edition and so forth of D&D. And you play your characters, you stay in the moment. What you know versus what your character knows are two different things, and you let the dice fall where they may. And sometimes maybe the gods smile on you, and that dice I roll, I take one off, and so maybe I don't hit you as badly, because I'm interested in, because it's a game. The idea is to have fun, but it's also to win. But there are rules within the game, and you've got to kind of play with them. And sometimes you do something stupid and you pay a price for it, and you've got to deal with that, and the characters die. And whereas now it seems like before you even roll up your character, I have this concept. He's this highborn elf noble, but his father was mean to him, and so he decided the life of an adventurer. And and you have this 10-page backstory for a character you haven't even rolled the stats on yet, and
they've become completely invested in a character that's non-existent.
Yeah, and it's like you do realize that well, the class you picked, even with your constitution bonus, the max hit points you're going to have is 10. And, you're in a party with a guy who wields a two-handed sword that can do more than your hit points in damage with one successful attack. And that's without even getting a 20, and doing double damage to you. So, and he's first level too. So, do you really want to invest all that time and energy before we even start playing the game? Or do you want to kind of okay, I'm going to play an elf adventurer. He's young, so he's kind of wanting to see the world a little bit while he's young and immature, because he's only
usually the one or two paragraph backstory is fine.
Yeah.
That's what happened with this campaign where Rothus originated. Was actually it was a dungeon master who was learning about 5th edition, but the last time he was a dungeon master was 2nd edition.
Okay.
So he came in and he was like, well, Rothus is how old? I said, well, he's like 300 some years old. He goes, okay, how does it make sense that he's still only level 1? So we did a little development and said, well, he lives in the woods, and he was a historian. He never really engaged much in combat. And then because he was mapping out the area, he encountered a local town of humans who were regularly being raided by it was either orcs or goblins. I don't remember what. And he took a liking to them and taught them very basic, in 5th edition, basic cantrips.
Okay.
To kind of defend themselves. He taught them how to make traps and stuff. So it was kind of still within that level 1. This could be done with a bunch of humans and some elf with higher than normal intelligence. It wasn't he's been a mage for 300 years. He's still a first level character.
Right.
So he kind of helped. It was that balance that he really brought into it has to kind of make sense. And that's kind of what I learned was, well, characters should have some grounding in reality.
Okay.
Some players now will try to say, well, it's fantasy, it's make-believe. Why do you care so much? Well, you can't just make them ridiculously powerful and they're not even 5th level yet or anything.
Yeah, you can't be Gandalf in the first before we've even played. Yeah. I mean, you can theoretically, if you're playing a high level scenario.
If you started at a high level, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, first level Gandalfs are fun, but yeah. Well,
Anytime in my campaigns, I usually start the characters out at second level.
Okay.
Because first is like to my mind, it's almost worthless, especially a hit point take. So second level, because you figure
fun going through Keep on the Borderlands at first level.
That in basic that was different.
Yeah.
When I first started out DMing, it was with the red box set.
Yeah,
and that I stuck to the letter of the law of the rule. Not a problem. But as I got into advanced D&D, and I figured, you know what, it would make sense to have the characters had already campaigned a little bit, 1 or 2 adventures under their belt. They're a little bit of experience. They can create maybe a 1-page backstory for that first level that they've skipped over, as it were, and just start out at right at the bottom edge of second level, and then they go from there. So
yeah, you know which end of the sword is the pointy end, and
exactly
and which direction it goes.
Your spell book is more than 5 pages, exactly.
Right. So, well, since I'm going to just kind of run this by you guys real quick. Obviously, you said you needed a thief.
Correct.
So, I was debating about what kind of thief. Right now, I'm leaning toward just playing a human and going with, the stat bonuses for that. So I considered playing, obviously, an elf or half elf or a halfling, something like that gives you the real nice, +2 in dex. But one of the things I absolutely hate about halflings from 3rd edition on to present is the fact that halflings in D&D now are kinder, not hobbits. And
like Dragonlance.
Yeah, everything about them, from the way wearing shoes to the way the art's drawn and everything like that, and I understand, because Kinder are characters written in the Dragonlance books by TSR. They're owned by TSR. They're intellectual property, and you're not having to worry about stepping on the toes of the Tolkien estate. But I like halflings as hobbits, and the fact that one's adventuring is a rare and unique thing, because you only see halflings in the Shire, and unless you go to the Shire, you don't. So I like them being unique, and I also hate the fact that almost everyone that plays a halfling now plays them like immature, attention deficit disorder teenagers,
like jesters.
Yeah. And so, obviously, if I played it, I didn't really see that kind of halfling I'd want to play fitting into this group in any kind of modern sense. And so I'm leaning toward playing a human.
All right.
Basic thing is the guy had a kind of crappy childhood. So he went astray and led kind of a criminal life early on. Not a bad guy per se, but life is hard. Life is tough. You have to kind of watch out for yourself. You have to watch out for number one. It doesn't matter how you look. If you got enough coins in your purse, women like you all the same. Whether you steal the ale or pay for the ale, it tastes good just the same. But he was into books. He was into reading, so he knows a little bit of stuff. He's got an education from the street, but he's not stupid. He's read a few books. So now that he's 18, 19, 20, his life is, I make my living where I can, which means if it's breaking into the second story of some farmer's house or some noble lord's estate, to find, and I find a few coins along the way, that's all well and good, so he knows a little bit, like I said, from books and from the streets. And based on either going by that Adventure League way of creating character stats with the 27 points of buying your stats, or the dice rolls I've got, I think the lowest roll I've got is a 10. I got 118, a 14, a 12, a 13, a 10, and a 15.
That's not bad.
Yeah. And which is higher than the what was it? 2 15s, 2 8s, and I think a 10 and a 13. I'd have to find the other slip of paper. But anyway, point is there's enough there. And then with whatever racial bonuses you throw in, that he can know a little bit, pretty nimble, fairly healthy. And he's just, proficient with his lock tools. So he can break into places. He knows a little bit about stuff. And then I was looking at ability wise, things like perception, stealth, deception, athletics, insight, and investigation. So basically, he's a solver of problems. Depending on where Rollo is on feats, I would like him to dual wield rapier and dagger, just because I'm comfortable with that, both how I would do it realistically and also, although I don't like the fact that padded armor gives you a negative on stealth and leather armor doesn't, because
that's not weird. It's essentially the same thing.
Well, depending on the leather armor, you are almost better protected wearing a gambeson, which is the quilted padded undercoat that goes under armor, than hardened leather armor, even if it's, fairly thick. Because the sword's going to pierce both if it's sharp enough without too much of an issue. But the gambeson is almost like early Kevlar, other than the fibers aren't hardened the way Kevlar is. But I mean, the concept and principle is the same. And the fact that it's clothing or cloth, a quilted material, it makes sense that you would be very quiet in that, because you also wouldn't necessarily have the same kind of fasteners that you would have to secure leather armor to you. And plus, with leather armor, with a gambeson, it gets wet. There's really not much difference other than it's wet, and then it'll eventually dry. With hardened leather armor, it gets wet, it gets soft. And, not as soft as it was when it was pre-supple, non-formed armor, but it does soften up. So I think, and then like studded leather armor, I believe what they thought that was actually brigandine armor, which is the cloth with the plates riveted underneath it. So you don't see that it's like a steel coat, because it's got the cloth riveted.
Studded leather, pretty much what Hank in the D&D cartoon wore, with the little rivets. Yeah.
That, I think Gygax and Associates looked at pictures and saw the studded cloth or whatever and thought, okay, that's studded leather armor. And it wasn't. And there's, it actually does a lot more protecting than that. And it's also a lot heavier. But I know that's one of the bits of minutia that some people argue about in the history, the reality of things versus the fantasy of D&D. But anyway, so yeah, basic suit of leather armor, rapier, daggers, short bow, some arrows. So I mean, pretty much the standard package. I was looking at the criminal background, standard rogue, and then having him be human, and then going with the stats I've got, and then what Rollo approved of as far as the racial bonuses, because like I said, I didn't know how much toward the first level he was going to lean. And then as far as like I said, he's a bullshitter who knows some things, who, you guys are being rousted by the local constabulary, and it's like, why are you guys here? And it's like, oh, well, see, I'm a merchant, a peddler of Kivas and Trillium, and unfortunately we were attacked by brigands along the road, and I lost several members of our group, and my wagon of goods, and my strong box with all of my coins in it. And unfortunately,
that's some bullshit. Yeah.
And unfortunately, this half-orc fighters, all the is left of my retinue. And of course, we picked up this mage and this cleric of Playlore along the way. And but fortunately, one of my members is searching for the brigands. I had 2 that survived, and they're chasing after them because they have some ability with tracking. And we agreed that we would meet here if they find it, and perhaps you could help us to recover my goods. I should only stay here for a week, and then I must return back to Faerun. And
you're like, all right, already, just go.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's the thing. I figured that's a bullshit artist, an Aaron Cleary.
Aaron Clary when he's in a different mood.
Yeah. So basically someone who's pretty good at the BS, who can spot BS in other people, who can unlock doors and check for things amiss, who knows a little bit of general knowledge about things and places and people. And just kind of left it at that. Name-wise, the name that popped off the top of my head is Tancred, because I thought the idea of a rogue name, a rogue named Tank, I just thought was kind of amusing. And then, like I said, if I can take the feat dual wield, that's what I'd like him to do, and using rapier and dagger, and so he can fight if he needs to, but he prefers not to. He prefers to use his wits to get out of trouble, and his wits to get his associates out of trouble. As long as you split the haul and he gets his fair share, he'll be there till the end. But, if someone's lawful stupid, he's going to argue vociferously against it and offer another course of action. So, if he likes you, he's very loyal and he won't steal from you. If you try to screw him over, crap happens. I don't know what happened to your purse. I really don't know. What? You lost your clothes while we were in the brothel taking our break? I have no idea what happened to that. It's kind of funny that the barman's wearing your shirt. Don't know how he got it.
Sold that real fast.
Yeah, you take that up with him. So,
cool. All right.
That's, someone who can do the job, is not an ass about it. And just, that's the thing. Like I said, I kind of came at this old school. I was obviously I knew that I was going to be a thief. So the stats have to play for that. But as far as coming into it, I tried to come into it as much in the old school. The dice tells you what character you're playing. Doesn't matter that you wanted to play a paladin. You didn't roll a paladin, but you can be a halfway decent fighter, even if you're not particularly bright or charming. And, that can be fun too, which is another thing I think is missing from the old school way of doing things. It's great that here's Legolas and you get to play that, which means you get to do all this, dog boy skateboard crap shooting arrows at people. That's awesome. But here's this background character from some mud hut somewhere. Play it, which I am, as someone who does some acting, I love character parts, and I love
it's
character
sort of like
actors,
it's sort of like Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah,
they took that route with the character creation.
Yeah,
which is it was kind of cool, I suppose. No, I get what you're saying, and I appreciate that as well, which is why we were just talking about this off camera, as it were, the tournament play. That's why tournament play was always an attractive aspect of it, because you didn't walk in with a character, you were given a character,
right?
Or there was a pool that you could choose from, and you all democratically just said, "Hey, you want to be that? Okay, well, I'll do this over here. I'll take this character." And it was only a 2 to 4 hour shot. You played the character and you went home.
Right. So if he died, it was just, it sucked.
There was no,
it
sucked,
wasn't like a character you've been playing for the last 3 years every weekend with your buddies.
Correct.
Just died at Gen Con because, you were dumb enough to enter your main PC in a tournament.
And then, if you did die at Gen Con, that's fine, because that was a story you had to tell.
Oh yeah.
And it was fine. So,
and if you survive, then that's bragging rights. And if you actually survived well enough that you placed in one of the top 3 and got a nice little, piece of paper with Gary's signature on it, then, instant collectible.
Exactly. Bacon, that is indeed his study, and there's our books and movies and whatnot in the background.
Actually, no movies in here.
No?
CDs. Those are
CDs.
CDs. Movies and Blu-rays are in the other room.
CDs
yeah,
nuts.
These are all books. So, reaching up to one of my game shelves, and that's what I grabbed.
Cool.
So
the old basic box set.
While you were telling a story, I kind of the way I'm very much enjoying, like, I like to improvise a lot more than to plan.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the sessions that I do were all just some planning, mostly improvising. So like one of the things people will ask is like, what is your mantra as a DM? And I say like, my rule is the final rule, but always try something different.
Right.
Always just do something that is completely different. But you actually gave me some it's not copying Tancred, but I guess from my understanding and just from what I've seen in the world that the Masculine Geek D&D group has kind of gone through, it's kind of having that, it seems to be more of a rugged kind of, not dark, but definitely a little more grim kind of world. Like it's not this very bright, happy kind of world. So I'm thinking Rothus is so obviously he's a wood elf. So wood elves are not quite high elves. So they're a little less, they're more able to blend in with the common people, except for the ears, of course. He wears common clothes, but he has a robe to kind of, so he can kind of move inconspicuously through places. He's obviously not a rogue, but being a wizard, he's an evocation wizard. He's learned, very powerful attack spells. They're very flashy, very bright. But he also has a balance of a few like more deceptive, distracting kind of spells, because he doesn't like to be too flashy unless he absolutely has to. So he's the guy that's kind of in this, at the tavern, kind of over there, kind of just playing with like a very, very light drink. And if shit really gets out of hand, then he steps in. But usually he's just kind of doing what he's doing. Like he has the cantrip Prestidigitation, which is pretty open-ended, I guess.
Right.
So he can do these little things. He has minor illusion. He does a lot of stuff with like trying to keep on a low profile unless something really gets crazy, like catapult. So the first level catapult, you can pretty much take anything and chuck it, and it goes ballistic, basically. I had a character once that I played where he was a prince and he was about to be assassinated. And he took an apple because he was at this harvest festival. He just grabbed an apple and chucked it at this glint he saw in a window, immediately killing the assassin with an apple. But in this case, yeah, he has catapult. He has a lot of these like more like improvising kind of spells where you can use what's around you or just do some distractions. But of course, he still has some more flashier spells that an evocation wizard would have to kind of, level the playing field, so to speak, in case things get out of hand.
Literally.
Right. Yeah. And in terms of his personality, I would say, like, well, let's say Tancred is kind of bullshitting away. He's kind of in the background, kind of face palming, like, because he's being a wizard, he's of a higher intelligence, but so he kind of has a bit of, not necessarily like think he's like superior, but he kind of just sees through it all. So he's seeing this and he's like, oh, he's doing his thing again. Yep, it's all bullshit. Yep, he's just totally fooling that guy.
But him having kind of a attitude of superiority, even if it's not intentional or overt, is actually kind of a very elf thing to do to a certain degree. Because I think one of the things that I think makes elves hard to play well is because of their long lifespan. Doing things in a rush is not a natural thing. So for an elf to be out adventuring and delving into dungeons and such, they have to be somewhat young and immature, and they have to have an almost higher reason for why they're doing it, especially in the company of a bunch of humans or dwarves or half orcs or what have you. And so that kind of makes sense. Although I don't want Tancred to just be a bullshitter for the sake of bullshitting. It's something he can do when he needs to. That's his way of getting out of crap if something's about to happen. It's also his way to keep from earning an honest living. Why buy a drink when you can talk someone into buying a drink for you because you're persuasive enough.
Probably win a drink too, maybe through some
Yeah.
gambling.
Yeah, because one of the abilities with having that criminal background, besides the proficiency with thieves' tools, is the fact that you proficiency with one game. So I figured, dice is too much of a chance, other than if my character was purposefully always switching the dice to cheat with like loaded dice. So I figured, I'd make him, the equivalent of some form of poker player or card player. So he carries a deck of cards and he's good at counting cards, and that would be
what if Rothus and Tancred were somewhat connected? So while Tancred's trying to pull a little trick, Rothus would reluctantly kind of assist him in some of his cons or anything. Let's say he did roll dice, so he just cast minor illusion to make, instead of moving the dice, he'll cast a minor illusion to sort of superimpose over the dice to make it look like he rolled something else.
That could be, because this is one of the things that it would be nice if a certain author from the Manosphere was here with us, that we could ask him, like, hey, how does Rothus and Tancred get involved with your group? Do you the stereotypical, you meet us in a bar somewhere or whatever?
Yeah.
But I like the idea of you and I catch the fact that, hey, you've got one of those twitchy finger things. Yeah. It's like, hey, how would you like to earn a little coin? You see, I've got this thing going out back, and if
out back, huh?
Yeah, if you could, can you make the die kind of roll the way I want them to? And you're like, oh, well, no, I couldn't do anything like that, but I could maybe make them think the dice rolled a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, all right. So let's say I win a few coins. How many of those coins would have to be yours to help me do this? So yeah, that would be a thing if you and I had kind of a hustle going somewhere, and that's where the group met us, because
being an elf, they're not very materialistic.
Well, hang on a second. You're getting ahead of yourselves, because you're going to be dropped in the middle of an existing campaign, so there's none of this chicanery going on. So sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's like I said, that was one of the questions we would ask Rollo if he was here. It's like, okay, how?
Yeah, no. We just killed the Ankeg. If you've been following along, in that crazy mud puddle in the interior courtyard of the keep. So,
what's Rollo's thing with bugs? You guys have been fighting bugs quite often.
Well, the campaign is following the slave pits of the Undercity, A1 through A4. Yep. So it's very
I think they're right there.
entomologically oriented.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I think I'm not sure if that's.
But I would say, like,
is that Carr or Guy? I think it's Guy Gex did that one.
I think so. I could
I'm
pull
just
it down
thinking,
to see, but
just scenario wise, like Rothus is basically stuck with Tancred, really just to get enough money to kind of get by.
Well, no, he could, like, you can, once you start talking to Raw and say, look, this is how Tancred and I met up, and then he can insert you into the campaign based upon what you guys come to a consensus on.
Yeah, because I figured you guys needed some help getting into places. You found out that I could do that kind of thing, and it's like, but yeah, I'll do it, but
He may
comes with me if you want. Yeah.
Rollo may even decide that you guys are captives and we free you.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
you have fuck all for equipment. So I have no idea what his
Right.
I have no idea what his plans are.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things that it would be really nice if a certain
Tancred was
somebody
fucking
here.
around and he found out.
Exactly. Who fuck around and find out?
Who knew the
Yeah.
orcs would see through the illusion? I couldn't have predicted that.
Right. Yes. Now, if Rollo was actually here to talk about this, like he was, whether we had planned on it, then this would be a moot point. But we're this is all conjecture at this point.
Yeah, we're just spitballing here. So
exactly. All right. So that's cool. At least you guys have character creation wise, you guys know what you're doing. You have a general idea of where you want the character to go, a little bit of a backstory, nothing crazy.
Right.
Any idea who's going to be the next DM? For right now, Raul is going to be the DM for the foreseeable future. We may switch back over to Drew to get if Raul feels like playing. There may be even a
Star Frontiers.
I'm thinking about a Star Frontiers game, even a Ghostbusters game somewhere in the future.
What's Star Frontiers?
Star Frontiers is D&D in space, essentially.
Oh, it's so good.
It's like Spelljammer in a way.
No. It's just completely no. That's Spelljammer.
Same mechanics, right?
Spelljammer is shit.
No, I'm saying Star Frontiers same mechanics.
No. It's not the same mechanics at all.
So our characters wouldn't transfer at all.
Nope. Not really. Well, you. No, I thought about for like they really.
But you can play a gliding monkey or a shmoo.
Basically, The shmoo is a Dralazite. Yeah. The monkey is a Yazarian, and you can play a bug, a Vrosk. It looks like a large, like a bit of a praying mantis kind of thing with 6 legs.
Yeah, Tricrine before Tricrine.
Oh yeah, basically Tricrine. Here you go.
Yeah.
I have it here because I've been doing some behind the scenes stuff on a novel, but that's the original box set that I bought in 1983, and it has. I'll show you the quick characters that Robert's talking about. So, so the basic set, basic game rules, and here's the expanded game rules. Let's put this over here. Clear my throat here. What the hell's going on here?
Although, if you want to do something deadly, I don't know if I can. Right here,
Gamma World. Yeah, that was a precursor to it. Now here's the Drowsite. It's kind of a blob-looking thing, and then there's the.
They have a very quirky sense of humor. They love puns.
Obviously, the human. They do, yes.
Yeah.
And there's the Vrosk. And the Yazarian.
Which are monkeys that hold grudges. Yes,
and glide like squirrels. And then there's the evil Saith. That's the enemy of the universe, of the Federation. That's the Saithar. They're like a snake.
I play this game on the computer. I don't know if have you heard of this game Stellaris?
No.
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
I have no idea what that is.
Are you? Do you still have this? By the way,
what's that?
Nighthawk.
Sky, correct? Yes, I have that as well.
Awesome.
Yep, I've got most of the game modules.
I think I have all of the game modules, and in my Starhawks, I still have my original dice and crayon.
Oh, nice. I don't have my original dice and crayon from that, but I do from my Redbox basic set.
Wow.
But I've got the 4 Starhawks, the 4 Nighthawks adventures, and my cards are still unpunched. So
nice. I like it. You remember Red Steel?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got those. The best part about the Red Steel campaign was the music that came with it in the CD.
Did you ever get the 2001 and 2010 modules for Star Frontiers? Did you know about that?
No.
Yeah, they are really different. I mean, but they're literally 2001 and A Space Odyssey in 2010, but to Star Frontier rules, which is weird because
Cool.
I always played Traveler as more hard sci-fi than Star Frontiers, which I played more as pulp sci-fi. But I had a friend of mine who's an artist for several game companies actually, and he played it the exact opposite. He always played Star Frontiers as very hard sci-fi, but to me there was a certain fun pulpy kind of aspect to Star Frontiers where with the right group of players you almost felt like a group of heroes flying through the ether doing cool daring do, fighting the Sathar and saving the day if you dice rolls willing. And but I always thought that was fun. I'd actually, before all the stuff with current events health issues wise, I was actually working on a costume based on the cover art, the Larry Elmore cover art from Star Frontiers for Gen Con this year. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, so I'd actually gotten
cool.
the props together for the lasers and everything else, but I am not sure that I'm going to Gen Con this year because right now their rules are still very much set. Spending that kind of money to spend the entire weekend wearing a mask is just not going to do it for me.
No, Gen Con can go fuck itself.
Yeah, that's kind of
No, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, so that's kind of my but sometime maybe in the future Indy might be a place to get together for an MG meetup or something like that.
Well,
or
as we talk about the super secret project that TJ and I are working on, we have a plan for that.
Okay.
So, yes.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't even want to mention that there was a super secret project.
No, I appreciate your subtlety and
super secret project.
Super secret project. Yes. Don't play stupid. You heard the whole thing. a super secret project. Yes. It's not that super secret, but it is hush hush until super secret. Yeah. It has a kind of a tonality to it. You could probably make that into music or some kind of weird ass song. Get on that, Amos. So it's going to be we're going to keep it close to the vest until we're ready to launch it, because the less people know, the less they can fuck with it. You know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Yeah, but I'm all in. I like it.
It's going to be groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, because it's
Super
much needed. That's right. And I should not have said anything in that regard, because Amos is he's going to belabor this, and it's like we'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah, let's move on to something else. Exactly. So it sounds like basically our rough ideas, which we're not necessarily married to at this point in time, so we can adapt them as needed based on Rollo's interpretation of the rules and what the campaign is.
Yeah, what the current scenario is.
Yeah. So that seems like that's what we've got in mind. Should be able to work into the group all right and be something useful, as opposed to a gnome inventor.
Yeah, right.
It was like, well, yeah, that's great, but we can't pick the lock on this chest. So
yeah. I was half expecting you to pick like a dwarf and be like an expert in locksmithing and lockpicking.
That I considered that, because if I did a dwarven character who was a rogue, that's what he would be. I mean,
that would be kind of cool. Yeah.
His higher purpose would have been finding ancient dwarven artifacts to return to
get really excited about the traps that he found, and sitting down and holding the party up with a piece of paper as he's drawing out the trap that he just found.
I totally thought about making basically a dwarven engineer, but I honestly thought as a character, because I don't know. Once this campaign ends, if these characters have a life beyond that, I wanted to play something that would be versatile and fun and useful. So if we're in a dungeon and we need to get out of something, he's useful. If we are in a bar and we need information, he's useful. So that's I wanted to create something that was a utility character, not something that was so specific that, yeah, he's great when we're on the adventure, but he's worthless any other time. So, like I said, obviously, as I said, I wasn't even married to what race he was going to be yet. So I had other ideas, but in general, that was the kind of package I was going for with this particular thief. And obviously this is the stuff I would have run by Rollo. It's like, yeah, so I can either go with these stats, or I can go with these stats, and I can go with this race, and I can go with this race. So, based on
There's
the
only
feedback.
one problem. There's only one problem.
I was thinking about this.
Yeah, so you know what the problem is?
What?
Your secret project.
No, you ass. You big dickhead. No, Rollo isn't here to discuss this shit. God
Right.
damn it. And yes, the super secret project.
Yeah. So,
God
So
damn
anyway.
it, anyways.
So what is the party going to be? Pretty much the standard group from this past Wednesday plus the two of us then
Correct.
going forward? Is that the
Yes.
plan?
The core group is TJ, Drew, and myself. And then I wanted at least
Do you want
to
do a rundown on the other players just in case there's anyone new turning in who doesn't tune in Wednesday nights to watch the game?
Drew is a cleric, kind of an old guy, kind of bumbling around, and is very thorough in his clericness.
What
Oh,
race?
he was very thorough
Yeah,
on
he's
Wednesday.
very,
with that
very,
Vector.
very. Yeah, I'm like even Grat,
swimming
even Grat was pulling a Clary, so I was getting a little impatient. And then TJ is a ranger, of course, makes sense. And Grat is a straight up fighter. And for myself as a player, which I haven't been very often, obviously when I've gone to conventions, I've been a player. But as far as like at home, not a player too often. But when I have, I've always played either a monk or a spell slinger, form of magic. This is the first time I've ever played a fighter.
Is
So,
it the first
cool.
half orc you've ever played too?
Correct. Yeah.
See, I've never, fairly recently, probably, well, I say recently, and it's probably been 2 years ago now, maybe a year. I created my first half orc fighter, and I've never ever played a half orc. And then the guy in the D&D Adventure League drew this caricature of my half orc character. So basically, just a half orc fighter.
Nice.
But
very Donald Sutherland style from the old D&D.
Yeah.
Cheese and ale, yes.
But I had probably about 3-4 years now. In October, one of the gamer blogs was running a thing all through the month of October for Orktober, talking about orcs from the various editions and things like that. And it occurred to me I had never played one ever. And so
it's fun.
And because lately I'm a big collector of Mythic Legion action figures, and the orc figures for that are just really, really cool. So reading the stuff on Orktober about orc culture, collecting those orc action figures, I was just kind of like, I really ought to give this orc thing a try. So I was asked at a friend's business to come in and play on their monthly D&D Adventure League. And so I created a half orc fighter, and no sad tragic backstory, anything like that. And he just, he was born a half orc. He was raised at a church. He found a natural outlet for his aggression in fighting. Joined a mercenary company, so he was an ex-mercenary and and fighter and so on, and that's kind of where he went. So not particularly bad or anything like that. We just kind of a big burly, not particularly attractive guy with tusk.
There you go.
But it's kind of fun to play. And he wasn't dumb. Because like I said, that Adventure League stats, I think his intelligence at the start may have been 12 or something, but it's fun to do the Hulk smash thing sometimes.
Absolutely, and be the literal tank.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So getting back to the whole the amalgam of our campaign as far as the characters are concerned, we've got the fighter.
Mm-hmm.
We've got we have the healer, which is Drew,
mm-hmm.
and then we have the sort of the he's a bit of a fighter, long range and melee weapons. And he's got his ability to track and it kind of like figure out anything that's related to the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
TJ as the ranger, and you guys will be complements to the group. So
what are the races of the cleric and the ranger?
I believe TJ is human, and I want to say so is Drew's character.
I think Drew is.
Yeah, I think
isn't he a cleric of Palor or something?
He is.
Like that?
So I think he's human, and then we've got the NPCs. And I'm blanking on their names right now. We've got Lupo, which we tried to get Jack Napier to play, but he's like, I'm not playing Lupo. All right, it would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then we have the bit of the Scottish fighter, and I'm blanking on his name too. Duncan. We have Duncan.
That makes sense.
Then we have the newly acquired Havling thief, which I not my player, not Grat, but I have my suspicions about who that is. So we'll leave that.
The one who ran off last Wednesday.
Yeah, that kind of disappeared. He was doing his reconnaissance, and we thought he had we thought he had double crossed us, but he had not. He was hiding in shadows.
Yeah.
So, but all right, cool. We're a little bit past the hour mark, and that's about what I wanted to run it.
Okay.
So, everyone that's in the chat, Blodgett, thank you, Bacon. For whatever reason, I'm blanking on names, and I'm tired. It is after midnight. It's almost 1 a.m. I have to get up early tomorrow. So, anyway, everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us for this impromptu Rogue broadcast. We're sorry Rollo wasn't here. He's busy doing some stuff.
We're not sorry. He should be sorry.
Yeah, he really should. But we're sorry. We're sorry for you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to call it a night, and the game that we're talking about will kick off this Wednesday, the 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully, everyone is on time. Rollo. And it'll be a good game. I think we're going to run this one a little longer. That was the what do you call it? The email thread that I put out, and everyone seemed to be okay with that. Running it at least 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem for me.
Yeah, so it'll run from 9 to about hopefully midnight on Wednesday. So catch us then. But in the meantime, everyone enjoy your weekends. Once again, thank you for joining us. And everyone listening later, thank you for listening in later. Be sure to hit that like button and smash it, as they say. And go ahead and share this with friends and enemies. And hit the reminder bell so you get the alert when these are broadcasting and set up for future postings. So enjoy, and we'll see you soon.